And today I spoke with Bailey Smith, who was living in one of the apartments engulfed in flames with her 2 little boys. She says they're trying to move forward as best they can, but what happened that night will always be with them.
Are you breathing okay?
For Bailey Smith, it all started with a phone call that would change her life.
My husband had called me and said that the boys were safe. He just threw them out the window and he was about to jump because the house was on fire.
In the early morning hours of November 2nd, 2018, first responders filled the East Medford apartment complex.
Direct mercy there as soon as you see them.
Investigators say the fire started in the apartment of 51-year-old Tanya Kaylee Johnson.
Medford Police Department, hey, your building's on fire.
Smith, her husband Kirosh, and their 2 sons live next door, along with their roommate Trish and her 2 daughters, Olivia and Amelia.
When he opened our bedroom door, he just got blasted with the soot. He was like black from the whole front.
Smith wasn't at home when the fire broke out, but says her husband woke up to heavy smoke. He acted fast, throwing their 2 boys out the window to firefighters below, then jumping out of the burning apartment himself.
They were taking my youngest son in ambulance to Rogue Regional. And then my oldest and my husband were going in the other ambulance.
But not everyone was brought to safety. Smith says Trish's 2 little girls were still inside.
He had mentioned to me numerous times that if he had known that they were still in there, he would have went and got them.
Olivia Chapman died a week later. She was 5 years old.
It's this entire case and everything that fell out afterwards. There's a lot of tragedy involved.
Today, you won't see any crime scene tape or charred wood, but that doesn't mean police have answers.
You certainly want to be able to say conclusively what happened when it's all said and done. I mean, somebody did lose their life in this event, but sometimes the investigations, when it's all done, you just can't really prove anything.
What Medford Police Lieutenant Mike Boudreau says they do know is that hours before the fire sparked, Johnson's apartment door was wide open, but Johnson wasn't home.
It's so odd because the fire started so many hours after the resident was in the hospital due to the accident.
He says Johnson couldn't have been home. That's because she was hit by a car earlier that night on South Pacific Highway, the accident leaving her in a coma for months.
The car accident in and of itself, I mean, that was odd. And you know, from our investigation, she ran out into the path of that vehicle and was struck, and she's lucky to be alive.
Police finally spoke to Johnson 2 months after her injury, but she had no idea why a fire could have sparked at her apartment.
I lived there 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, and I had never seen that lady.
While they're still frustrated by the lack of answers in the investigation, it was another tragedy 3 months after the fire that shook the family. Smith's husband, Kirosh, took his own life.
I tried for almost 3 months after the fire to have him get help, and he just didn't want it.
Though he saved his boys and didn't know the girls were still in the apartment, he blamed himself for Olivia's death.
No matter who talked to him, who told him that he couldn't, there was no way that he would have gotten her out. It just didn't, in his mind, it wasn't enough for him.
One tragedy after another, all of it, Smith says, could have been avoided, should have been avoided. But as hard as it is, they have to move forward. At some point, as hard as it is, we kind of have to move on, in a way. Not forget, but we have to move on. In Medford, Amanda Rose, NBC5 News.
I need medical in here as soon as you see them to a child right behind 8103. It's the unit directly to your south. Direct mercy there as soon as you see them. This way. Stage right out here with the other kid right there. Got 2 kids.